Hello everyone, my name is Yogesh Bhandari. Today we are going to discuss about a question under the GST law. The question is whether directors' remuneration are subject to GST on reverse charge mechanism basis. This question or confusion is the consequence of recent Advance Authority ruling by Karnataka and Rajasthan Advance Authority ruling. Let us go through the same. The Karnataka Advance Authority ruling was given on 25th of September 2019 in the case of Messrs. Alkan Consulting Engineers India Private Limited. Here the applicant has sought advance ruling on whether GST on RCM is applicable on remuneration paid to directors. Second Advance Authority ruling given by Rajasthan on 20th February 2020 in the case of Messrs. Claycraft India Private Limited. Here the applicant has sought advance ruling on whether GST is payable on RCM on salary paid to director of the company who is paid salary as per the contract. Briefly, the facts of the above cases are discussed below. Here the directors are whole-time directors. Salary is paid as per the contract and as decided in the board meeting. Salary has been booked and TDS is deducted under the head income from salary. EPF is also deducted from the salary. Other policies are applicable in the similar manner as it is applicable to other employees. So moving on to the next slide where we are going to discuss about the ruling given. This ruling was given against the applicant. Relevant extract of the ruling in both the case is provided below. I will quickly read it out for you. The applicant is a company and is located in the taxable territory, and the director's consideration is paid for the services supplied by the director to the applicant company, and hence the same is liable to tax under RCM basis. This ruling was supported by entry number 6 of the notification number 13/2017. It categorically speaks about those supply of services which are liable for tax on reverse charge basis. Same is produced below for your easy perusal. If you'll see column 2, it speaks about category of supply of service. Here, if the service is supplied by the director of the company or a body corporate to the said company or the body corporate. Supplier of service. Who should be the supplier of service? The director, as stated in column 2. The director of the company or body corporate should be the supplier of service, and obviously the recipient is going to be the company or the body corporate located in taxable territory. So based on this notification, the ruling was given against the applicant, and consequently the applicant is liable for GST on reverse charge basis on director's remuneration. Now the real confusion begins. The above two rulings have created confusion for the company and key managerial person as to how are they supposed to treat the director's remuneration already paid, or is there any distinction among the directors of whole-time director, independent director, nominee director, etc. So this has created a lot of confusion in the mind of company key managerial person. Though this ruling does not provide for detailed reasoning or for the applicability of the GST on the same, one may need to consider various scenarios, laws, acts in order to apply such a proposition for taxability under RCM. So major reliance has been placed on notification number 13/2017 by the Advance Authority ruling. This notification states about supply of services on which GST is charged on reverse charge basis. It states about services provided by a director of a company or a body corporate to the said company or body corporate shall be liable for GST under reverse charge mechanism. Based on the above notification, the salary as stated in Advance Authority ruling in both the cases was considered as subject to GST on RCM basis. Now we need to check other provision of the Act to understand the applicability of GST on director remuneration. Section 7 subsection 1 defines supply under the GST Act, and Section 7 subsection 2 clause A states about those activity or transaction which shall be treated neither as supply of goods nor as supply of services. which is mentioned in Schedule 3 of the CGST Act 2017. Entry 1 is the most relevant in this case, which states services by an employee to the employer in the course of or in relation to his employment. So this particular service by an employee is not considered as a supply. A diagrammatic view is given for your better understanding. Service given by an employee to the employer is not considered as liable for GST, neither on forward charge basis nor on reverse charge basis. However, the biggest problem is the term employee has not been defined under the GST, which has been stated here. Therefore, to understand as to who is an employee, we would have to seek understanding from various sources. So now we need to understand the meaning of employee from various sources and also determine whether activity of directors can be considered as activity of an employee as per entry 1 of Schedule 3. We have taken definition of employee from various sources. The very first source is Cambridge definition. An employee means someone who is paid to work for someone else. In turn, one can say that a director is an individual, someone who is working for the company, someone else. So a director who is paid to work for a company. Second, clarification by DCA in a letter. It states that any director working as a whole-time director would be legally at par with an employee. Third, Section 62(1)(b) of the Companies Act 2013. Employee means a permanent employee of the company who has been working in India or outside India, or, this point is important, an employee means a director of a company, whether a whole-time director or not, but excluding an independent director. So here, in Companies Act, directors who are whole-time directors are considered as employee. Moving on, Section 234 of the Companies Act. Director includes a director in the employment of the company. This definition is an inclusive definition. Director refers to the director who has been in employment of the company on a full-time basis and also entitled to receive remuneration. Now it is important to present the type of directors. There are broadly two types of directors. One, executive director, who are under whole-time employment of the company and are also involved in the daily routine of the company. The other type of directors are non-executive director. They are exactly opposite of what executive directors are. They are not involved in the routine operations of the company. They only attend the meetings of the board of directors or its committee and thus work at a periodic intervals on a part-time basis. Now we will check Income Tax Act. Under Income Tax Act, a managing director or a whole-time director is treated as employee if the company deducts TDS on remuneration under Section 192, which is for income from salary. If director discloses a remuneration under the head income from salaries while filing his return of income under the Income Tax Act. If the salary is paid on a periodic basis to the managing director or whole-time director like any other employees of the company. The above position is upheld by Supreme Court in the case of Ram Parshads versus CIT in the year 1972. Moving forward, we've also put definition of employees under Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provision Act 1952. I'll quickly read it for you. Section 2F defines employee as any person who is employed for wages in any kind of work, manual or otherwise, in or in connection with the work of an establishment, and who gets his wages directly or indirectly from the employer, and includes any person. Number 1. Employed by or through a contractor in or in connection with the work of the establishment. Number 2, engaged as an apprentice, not being an apprentice, engaged under the Apprentice Act 1961 or under the standing orders of the establishment. So this is how Employee Provident Fund defines an employee, and based on above definition, it clearly states that a person employed through a contract for wages is an employee of that establishment. So we have gone through the definition of employee under various acts and from various sources. Now we will check certain case laws wherein it was held that directors and whole-time directors are considered as an employee of the company. There are 3 case laws present here: Ram Parshad and Commissioner of Income Tax. This particular case law we have discussed, or we have mentioned, where we have mentioned definition of employee under the Income Tax Act. Case 2, Regional Director ESI versus Sarthi Lines Private Limited. Case 3, Sardar Harpreet Singh versus Commissioner of Income Tax. Under all the above 3 cases, it was understood that director and whole-time director are employees of the company, as they are appointed by board of directors, and after which there exists an employer-employee relationship. Moving on. Now we have discussed about definitions, we have discussed about case laws, we have discussed about entry 1 of Schedule 3. After considering all the above definition, case law, entry 1 of Schedule 3, a question arises here is whether the activities performed by director is within the purview or outside the purview of entry 1 of Schedule 3 of CGST Act 2017. Let us go through and discuss about this particular question. A director is an employee of a company if there is a condition. There are 4 conditions put. If there exists an employer-employee relationship, a director can be considered as an employee then. If the conduct of operation is guided by the terms of agreement. If he is appointed as a whole-time director by the board of directors. If the conduct of operation is within the framework of Articles of Association and Memorandum of Association. Therefore, whole-time directors are treated as employee of the company, as the agreement between the company and director is drafted considering the various terms and conditions of employment. Also, they are actively involved in the planning and operation of the company. Moving on, another question arises whether whole-time director are an employee of the company. They are an employee of a company because there exists an agreement between the company and director which is drafted considering the various terms and conditions of the employment. They are actively involved in the planning and operation of the company. So the terms of the employment contract between the company and the director should be clear, and it should be able to establish the relationship as an employer and employee, so that it will help the company to substantiate its claim that director is an employee of the company and remuneration paid to director is in the nature of salary. Now we are going to discuss about certain circulars and clarification given by GST department and service tax regime, which is relevant when we are discussing about directors and why they should be considered as an employee. Let us go through that. The GST department has issued clarification in the year 2017, which is reproduced as below. It is pertinent to point out here that the service by an employee to the employer in the course of or in relation to his employment is outside the scope of GST, either supply of goods or supply of service. It follows therefrom that supply by the employer to the employee in terms of contractual agreement entered into between the employer and employee will not be subject to GST, which means any service provided by an employee in terms of contractual agreement will not be subject to GST. Other clarifications, circulars. There are other payments in the nature of commission, fees, etc., which is not mentioned in the agreement. There is no clarity in this act, that means GST Act, with respect to chargeability of GST on RCM basis. However, such payment was considered as chargeable to service tax, White Circular number 115/09/2009 in service tax regime, which states, in case such directors provide any advice or consultancy to the company for which they are being compensated separately, such service would become chargeable to service tax. So here, any advisory or consultancy given by even a whole-time director which is not covered in the agreement is considered to be chargeable to service tax. Similar position can be taken in the GST Act also. Lastly, payment made to other categories of directors, example non-executive director, in which case there is no employer-employee relationship and who are also not involved in the operation of the company, is not considered as salary, and therefore any payment made to this non-executive director will be liable for GST. So finally, we are at the conclusion now. But before concluding, let me summarize the whole presentation that we have discussed till now. Number 1, we have considered the Advance Authority ruling, wherein director remuneration was considered as chargeable to GST under RCM basis. Number 2, we have considered the notification number 13/2017 for GST on RCM basis on director's remuneration. We have considered Schedule 3 of GST and definition of employee. We have also considered various case laws to determine whether directors can be considered as an employee. Based on all the above details, we conclude that consideration paid as per the terms and agreement to the directors engaged in whole-time employment will be treated as part of salary and will be excluded from the ambit of GST. In case of independent directors, which is other than whole-time directors, sitting fees paid or payable should be brought within the ambit of GST. It appears that AAR in the case of Claycraft, Rajasthan, and Alkan Consulting Engineers India Private Limited for Karnataka have not evaluated the issue under various scenarios. It has placed its reliance on notification issued under the RCM, that is notification number 13/2017. So with due respect, the ruling requires reconsideration to the extent it considers above scenario. We expect that the CBIC would clarify the issue so as to avoid unnecessary disputes. As the issue under consideration is not settled and there are chances that department might issue notices to the companies, it is advisable to maintain some documents and follow some directions. So companies who are following above said advice are required to follow below recommendations. Key recommendations in order to deal with this confusion are: the employment agreement or contract between the company and the director should provide all the terms and conditions, keeping in view the provisions of Companies Act 2013. It should list down directors' employment details, duties and responsibilities. It should also have appointment and resignation clause by the Board of Directors as it applies to any other employment of the company. The company should deduct TDS under Section 192 and issue Form 16, etc. as per Income Tax Act. This will be an additional evidence that directors are paid salary and not professional charges or professional fees. The company should follow provisions of other laws like Employee Provident Fund, Profession Tax, Employee Insurance Act, etc. to the extent possible. The company needs to pay directors' remuneration as resolved and approved in the board meeting or as per the agreement on periodic basis. So we are done with the presentation now. Now I am going to take your last 1 minute to explain you about SBM Gunas. This presentation was given on behalf of SBM Gunas, which is a platform for conducting courses in a practical way. It provides convenient training. So our coursework is structured to incorporate practical training along with classroom training to get hands-on industry experience. It would enable students to earn along with continual learning. Highly qualified educators. Our experts include chartered accountants with wide industry experience, well versed with accounting, finance and banking skills. Apart from tutoring, they are in consultancy business. You can also achieve your dream with the help of SBM Gunas. Learn all the necessary skills with the help of our experts and get your dream job. Build a successful career into the accounting profession. So these are our website and LinkedIn page. You can go there and check for the details. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for participation and your concentration on this presentation. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.